Yeah, well, let's go through it. So we're on the December 6th meeting. Last November 22nd was Thanksgiving, so nobody was on the meeting.
Right.
So there was nothing discussed. In the new and the announcements, there's a new release of the XML module that was published with a couple bug fixes. Automated builds, I got a message from Oliver that he was very busy with work, and he was also in a new house and setting things up and stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't have time to. You, on your side, have nothing new on that?
Not an update since the last meeting. I'm still stuck on a number of things that I just cannot do. That frustrate me. So I'm how shall I say, veer between, this is going to be the greatest solution we ever had for building stuff, to, oh my God, this is half finished and we're going to go back to gulp and whatnot.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not something blocking. We can always publish manual builds. It's not like, well, we're building every day.
Also. No, it's for sure. It's for sure. Okay. But the goal in the end is that, in the foreseeable future, we do come up with a best practice for building module that we're all going to adopt for the core modules.
So it's more of a long-term goal that we have, and we keep it in the unfinished business and just not to forget about it. EPT, I think, should be coming back from vacation one day.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's back, but
probably overwhelmed. Yeah, probably a lot of job by coming back.
Yeah.
So it's still on the target, but there's nothing much to report today. Including symbols in the release package, I took a look at how DNN was doing it, and basically it's just putting the files there. So there's no specific thing to put. It's not the same way as putting the DLL. It's not an assembly. So it's basically just dumping the files in that folder. Yeah. So I'll try to implement that as I touch modules so that we can have symbol packages. I actually even think I can take this out of the meeting notes because it's going to be
right.
Well, we know what's to be done. We just need to do it. So, I got contacted. Well, I said that in the last meeting, but I got no news from Francisco on this. But basically, he wanted to have a way to make the vendors banners module, which is the same module. I initially thought that this was part of the DNN core to have vendors, and that was taking away from the core, but it's totally independent. So the banners module includes the vendors modules. So you just assign users as vendors, and so it's totally standalone. And we can, I think I checked, and it was working with the DNN 9.2 already. The only thing that was to do was to make it responsive. I need some time, or someone, whoever wants to touch this, to check what's currently the industry standard for banner aspect ratios or sizes. Or back then there was very specific sizes. Skyscraper was that many pixels by that many pixels.
Right, and nowadays, of course, you've got to contend with responsive design.
Exactly. So I'm not sure what the action to be done here is.
It actually may well be the reason it kind of disappeared at some point, because with the requirements for responsive design, this module wasn't really made for that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe taking the same things that are there, but just make a responsive display of them so that it scales, keeping the aspect ratio, and that's it. What scares me with that is that sometimes there's text in an image, and when
Right.
you squeeze it, it becomes totally unreadable. So, but at least they would be responsive. So I don't know. It's on the target.
Yeah.
The past 3-4 weeks, I didn't get much time to work on the core modules. I kind of shifted a little bit towards the DNN platform, trying to finish the Personabar. Basically, we updated the dependencies, and
Yeah, exactly.
all the modules of the Personabar broke. So there's a lot of hours to invest in that, and it took away the time I had for open source contributions.
Yeah.
It shifted my focus a little bit. So whenever I come back to this, probably when 9.3 is ready, that's kind of my intention to work on these things.
Yeah.
We also spoke on the last meeting about integrating Koi in the core modules. We had a lengthy discussion on that. Koi is nice because it allows you to detect the framework.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a mixed opinion on that. I mean, it's a good thing because it allows you to know, but then you have to manage a way to display for no Bootstrap, for Bootstrap 3, for Bootstrap 4.
Yeah. There's a lot of how shall I say, work to be done on the module side if you want to leverage this. Which, yeah, it doesn't help. I would be inclined to maybe rethink this, and one of the ideas we had, and I don't know if it's 7.7 a little bit, is a standard where this would be an alternative to Koi. Where you say, well, as a module, you work with templates, right, to display your content most of the time.
Yeah.
And if you could move all of those templates into a folder within the skin, right, then you actually kind of solve the same thing, because it means that, okay, well, if you have a Bootstrap 4 skin or something, you say, oh, okay, that module is incompatible with Bootstrap 4. You can include the templates for Bootstrap 4 in that skin folder to make it even, nicer. You could even go much further. Then you have more flexibility because you can make the module look exactly as it's supposed to within that skin.
Yeah.
Now, you would fall back on a default template that is within the module folder itself. But basically, a mechanism would say, okay, well, if there's nothing in the skin folder for this template, then I'm loading the default one out of desktop modules and slash my module folder.
I think the blog module does it that way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there's a hierarchy of where it searches. It's going to search in the skin, it's going to search on the site, and then it's going to default to whatever the module has.
Exactly. Yeah. That was the idea. And I think that is a different solution to the same problem that Koi tries to address. So I totally agree with Daniel's establishing that as a problem. What he did in identifying that issue.
Daniel Mettler.
Yeah, Daniel Mettler. I was just not 100% convinced that Koi was the way to solve it. Although I found a very creative solution to this thing. Yeah,
and me, that's why I say I have a mixed opinion on this, because it's nice to have a framework. So if your module has buttons, the button's going to be styled as the rest of the buttons on the site and stuff. It's nice for that, but I think it's quicker to manage a single thing and just use like CSS Flexbox or CSS Grid for layout and stuff. And the user, the consumer of the module, having a template. If he decides that the button needs to be Bootstrap styled, he can just add the classes and there we go.
No. Having said that, both of these solutions don't adapt well to for something like React.
Mm-hmm.
Because in React, you're actually hard coding what you want the whole stuff to look like inside of your JavaScript. It's also a question if React is as sensitive to the whole switching of frameworks. I think if you do it correctly, then you are basically rolling it all inside of your React module, and you're completely independent from everything that sits around it. But that raises the question then, like, hey, but wouldn't it be awesome if you could still use some kind of a templating where, for instance, like the blog module, where you could say, oh, well, then it will look different on this skin than this skin.
Yeah, we also need to think ahead to at the time where we will no longer be on web forms for those modules.
Exactly.
And if we want to go the MVC way, or if we want to go this SPA way,
yeah,
I don't see how with this an SPA module how we could integrate templating.
No, and I think I think you should see it this way. The MVC module pattern is currently the de facto standard way of doing DNN module development. It's the one that we put into the display and say, okay, well, this is the way you develop a module. Why? Because it leverages all of the .NET framework goodies, etc. that there are, and you can do an awesome, little to-do module that displays exactly how all of these bits kind of fit together in DNN module development. The SPA module is kind of there to provide for people who are like, well, actually, I don't want to have anything or have much to do with DNN. I just, I want to reduce that to a minimum. I want to do everything as much as I can in JavaScript frameworks, which is, I think, totally fair and valid. But I don't think that will ever be the dominant module development pattern for this, because otherwise, you might as well have chosen any old framework out there, right? If you reduce everything to zero, then you're like, okay, well, then why did you even come to .NET, right? Because it's kind of the odd one out in all the frameworks. So
yeah, because you're basically just using the web API, so it could be anything behind.
Exactly, you're just talking to a REST API, and that's it. So I know I've never seen it, and I don't think it will ever be the development pattern that we're going to put front and central. Like, okay, this is the way you're going to do it. Rather, the MVC one, which has now been improved, if I'm correct, over the last few iterations, and something that Andrew's passionate about to perfect. That is the one that we put up front, right?
And the MVC pattern would be a good choice moving forward with Blazor and stuff.
Right, exactly. Well, that's definitely the hope, and
which would blur the lines between MVC and SPA.
It would kind of blur the lines, but you're still your templates are now becoming what do we call it? They're becoming C# templates. So all of a sudden things are becoming a little bit more familiar. Razor, yeah, exactly. So that would look quite nice to our users. So yeah, I think that I think the SPA, somehow it will stay like some kind of minimalist approach where you say, okay, well, we have a way for you to just basically serve out your starting point of your app and your JavaScript file, and then you take it from there.
I like the SPA. I like to use SPA for administrative stuff, for module settings, for stuff that's not publicly visible, that doesn't need to be templatable and stuff.
Right.
I like it because of the speed of it and the things you can do with front-end intensive stuff.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't see SPAs as the front publishing.
My development pattern currently is MVC by default, but sometimes it's just a single view. So basically, you're mimicking SPA by going with the MVC module. But usually, I do it because it does allow me quite easy to switch between different parts of the application, and then from there it's just React on the front side, talking to Web API.
SPA is our default.
SPA is your default. Yeah, I'm not surprised. You guys are big Angular fans.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I was a little bit more React, but yeah, we do tend to default towards SPA and stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, I joined late, guys. I'm actually driving.
No problem. You're still welcome.
As long as you don't look at the screen, fine.
Yeah, look in the front.
Yeah, exactly.
What screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean that's that, I think, and just let's move on. So the future of sitelog module.
Yeah, so I wanted to put an RFC on that to see if there's any interest or if nobody is using that, given that we now have analytics and stuff, and do we really need to move forward with the sitelog module? And if so, I think that would be a nice showcase of moving a web forms module to a Personabar module.
Right.
But if there's zero interest on that, then it's just wasted time. Exactly. So yeah, since I was so busy, I didn't even put the RFC yet. So that's something when I have.
Or you could even kick it off to I don't know, punt it to a conference. What do you call it? What do you say? Code camp kind of task, right? Where you've got to come up with an idea of like, okay, what to do for this training session and whatnot. And you say, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do the sitelog module, and see if it will move that way. Because it's true, it's hard to motivate anyone in this climate where we have so few developers to do something that has so little interest.
Yeah. But one of my goals with the core modules was to make them an example of good practices and training on what. So I think that would be a nice candidate for Personabar module because there's no user visible stuff at all. So I think that would be a nice example for moving to the Personabar. It's a nice module for that, even if it's not very used. So I think I'll just do it anyway and make a video or something. Security Analyser, that's pretty much complete. Let's go put that in the complete section here.
Good.
So basically, was it released? Hold on a second, let me just check.
Second from the top.
There we go. With the releases. That was
December 7th.
No, so nobody released it. So I don't know. I commented on a couple things here.
Do it tomorrow. You can make it exactly a year.
Yep. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So nobody replied to me. Let me tag them again.
think there's really nobody monitoring this.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Looks
tag
like
them.
it.
At least they're gonna be notified.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically, we added the version check,
Mm-hmm.
and if not on DNN 9.2 or up, want to move to the Personabar version of the module. Because basically that was made for DNN 8 and it was never updated. So if you're on the latest DNN 8, it was showing as everything is fine,
Yeah.
but it's not. If you want to be fine, you need to be on the latest version. And that module was totally rebuilt as a Personabar module. So yeah, you need to use if you rely on the old one, the information displayed might not be correct. So just waiting confirmation to release new version, and then that module will be archived, and any pull requests. It's true, I moved all the pull requests. Moved all issues to the Personabar version. I moved them to the repository, all the existing issues that were still valid, so the discussion can continue on the correct repository. So the blog module, I ran out of time. I don't know if you have anything new on that, but since my attention moved a little bit to another focus area,
Yeah.
but we did a good cleanup of the issues.
Yeah.
And we collected all the bugs into a release and all the improvements separately and stuff. So whenever I have time, that was on my target before what happened with the Personabar. So
yeah.
Still a work in progress.
What happened with the Personabar?
Well, you just had to be here in time. Yeah, basically, within the team, there's few people that know React, and we are 3-4 team members focusing on basically, we upgraded the dependencies because that was built a couple years ago and it was never updated for dependencies. And, you know, bumping it by one version or bumping it to the latest would be the same amount of work. So we kind of decided to bump it to the current versions of React, the current versions of everything. But that's a huge step up, and there's a lot of stuff that got broken in the process, and we're basically just collecting the bits and parts and making it just rework as it was working for the DNN 9.3. So there's a lot of hours invested in that, and I'm one of those guys. So yeah, it consumed my month of November. Okay, anything else we want to add or chat about, or we make this a short meeting?
Well, we make this a short meeting, I think.
Cool, sold. So,
another long one coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. So the next one will be very close to Christmas.
Yeah. Exactly.
Peter, if you're sitting around twiddling your thumbs and looking for something to do, we've got plenty of work since you're a React expert. We've got plenty of
on the admin experience, you mean?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. To be honest, I am a heavy adopter of TypeScript, and I am still somewhat irritated whenever I open Admin Experience that they never did it in TypeScript. Why? Because if you ever want someone else to work on your code afterwards, if it's in TypeScript, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier to get into it. Right? Now that it's not, it means that every time you pull something, you've got some extensive testing to do to see if you didn't accidentally fuck something up. With TypeScript, you make something much more future-proof. So every time I open something up, my hands are itching like, I should just fucking convert this to TypeScript. And I know I'm going to just be wasting everyone's time doing that stuff, but that's the that's
Well,
the bottom line of it.
I don't know if you would be. I don't know if you would be wasting time. I think that's something we should discuss, and it could be appreciated.
I could put it this way. One of my first things I would like to do is to see if how hard it would be to mix and mash. So how could you? Because what I used to do is when I went into code and the patterns had changed or like evolved or something, and you go into a module, is that you change it bit by bit. You don't try to change the whole fucking thing, and instead just say, okay, well, I'm going to do these and these. I'm going to do this bit of this module, improve it, and so we have a better experience in the future. And if that is possible in the admin experience, I think that would be something I would sink my teeth into.
Yeah, you have access to the worksheet.
Yeah.
Do you have access to the worksheet with all the Personabar modules and their status and stuff?
Let me see. The worksheet is where? On GitHub or on Slack?
It's on the Google Drive.
Okay.
But a link to it is in Slack tag admin experience channel.
Yeah, the admin experience, and I'm a member of that channel. So
okay. So on that sheet, there's a column here, the line of codes.
Okay.
So if you want to grab, like one of the small ones, like the recycle bin, and do a test, I mean, you know which ones are smaller.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that is that could be worth my while. Yeah.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right, so that's my commitment. I'm gonna have a look at that.
Awesome. I don't know if maybe we should discuss with the other guys in the admin experience channel. See what's the.
I'm first going to do a test if it's even possible before we start.
Okay.
Hey, Peter, would your focus would it kind of be to just convert JSX files first and just go from there, or what would you be doing?
I think the first step is to see if I change one to a JSX, like a JS to a JSX file, and have it like to a TSX, sorry.
Well,
TSX goes to a TX.
But yeah, to TSX, yeah, exactly.
And see if that actually will compile together with the other stuff. Or if I need to change everything within a single project to TSX in one go, that will give me an answer to how feasible that project is.
I think you'll find that it's going to be fairly isolated. So, by each extension. So
Right.
Because from TypeScript still.
I think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, Daniel.
TypeScript will still transpile to JavaScript, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean there's no delta there. That is all taken care of by Babel and TypeScript itself. Like you're now compiling your script into some minified JavaScript blurb, right? That's what we do at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it would be pretty much isolated.
Yeah, what is it, David?
Yeah, I was saying we just upgraded Babel to 7.0.
Right.
So should be set up pretty nicely for that.
Yes, it's pretty cool because if you can also use the modern patterns of JavaScript 6, etc., right, ES6 to use those shortcuts and everything, and just let Babel take care of the rest of just compiling that down to JavaScript that is compatible with the range that we want to be compatible with. Then as a programmer, you're back to this safe territory where you're actually just focusing on creating clean code that is understandable and that is future-proof.
Well, I think that's something that Oliver would also get excited about because it would help in the build process as well.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's, you can rely more on the tests, right?
Yeah.
So you could have test, scripts in there as well.
Yeah.
Whereas now we don't have that. We have different. I mean, half of these don't even have workable tests.
Right, and the thing is that with TypeScript, you have so much already reduced need for that kind of stuff. Because you're basically continuously within your editor warned in case you're violating something.
Yep, exactly.
Right
now we're relying so heavily on Webpack.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful, and I do have to say, I mean, I cringe every time I have to go back to regular old JavaScript.
Yeah, exactly. No, that would be great, man. I mean, that would be a welcome change, I think, by anybody that's interested in the Personabar.
I'm going to have a look.
Cool. And if you need help setting up the development environment with the different pieces, the common library and stuff, find yourself mixed up, just ping me.
Yeah. Will do.
Yeah, and you know that Matt, part of his process was to put all of the TypeScript stuff in the React Common. So those are ready for it.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that was part of his big upgrade, was to get all the TypeScript definitions in there. And wait a second. Wait, I might be confusing it with something. Sorry, I might be thinking of types.
Yeah, no, that's okay, but it's important as well that the React Common, that when you expose those things to other components, that you have a type definition,
Yes,
.td
I know you
files,
updated all the type definitions.
and that means that when you import it into your TypeScript project, you're type safe against those components.
Yep, and that was his main driving reason for doing all that, because you can't use them now, in a TypeScript environment. So
exactly.
Yep, that's done. So
but that's awesome, because that means you get all the IntelliSense as well with it.
Exactly. Yep.
Cool. All
Sounds
right,
good.
So we're going to see each other again in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, so next one would be on the 20th and then the 27th, so just before and just after Christmas.
Yeah.
We'll see. Oh, no, sorry. The 20th, and then it's going to be next year.
Exactly.
Cool.
All right,
so,
peeps.
Thanks, guys.
See you next time.
Yep.
Good to see
Thanks
you,
a lot.
Daniel.
All right.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.